Here we go. Another episode. It's SoCal Honey Badger along with my mans. Go ahead and tell them.
What's up, everybody? It's Ryan Stone. How's everyone doing today?
They can't answer back.
They can't answer.
It's the internet, right? That's the worker like in you. You're like constantly waiting for pops, right? Hey man, you guys enjoy podcasts in Cleveland, Carolina?
Oh, I missed the pops.
Right. Okay, so the big news that we have to talk about.
Yeah.
It literally happened last night. AEW versus New Japan. Although they use the X, so that means cross. That doesn't necessarily mean versus.
So we're probably gonna get New Japan versus New Japan, AEW versus AEW. But dude, yeah, we better get some AEW versus New Japan shit.
I'm expecting a lot of team ups, right? So I haven't watched Dynamite, full disclosure, but you can't not get this spoiler, right? There's no way you're avoiding that.
No.
So I imagine like they'll do something like the Bullet Club and the Elite doing like a 8-man tag against like, maybe Okada and the Blackpool Combat Club kind of thing.
I think they would do something like that, but I don't think it will be the Okadas. I think you're going to get in New Japan an IWGP World Heavyweight title defense. Whether it's an AEW guy or not, I don't know. But I think that's where you're going to get at least one title defense from the World Heavyweight title. Probably a tag title defense. Maybe we'll see tag titles against like God or something. I don't even know who the tag champs are right now. I want to say it's... Oh, you know what? It's the United Empire. It's Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb are the tag champs right now, the heavyweight tag champs.
I could see God being there just because of the Bullet Club.
See, that's what I want to see. I wouldn't mind seeing like the Undisputed Elite and Bullet Club against God. I think that would be pretty cool. They've got that natural story already built in. They kicked out Tama. They kicked out Tongaloa. So that would be fun. Dude, Punk and Kenta.
That's the
shit.
match.
Oh, Punk and Kenta. See, and you mentioned it to me over text earlier. Bryan and Okada. I wasn't thinking that way, but I need that fucking match.
Well, people online are saying Punk and Okada is the match that they want. And I'm like, you know what? But we've been waiting a long time for Punk and Kenta.
Yes.
Literally that's been an argument forever. Western fans love Punk, and anyone who has watched anything Japanese loves Kenta and realizes that a lot of Punk is Kenta. Yeah.
If you watch CM Punk, though, you'll like Kenta. I mean, Punk just took what?
Everything. Like almost everything that Kenta did. And that's what I think is cool, dude. We never got Undertaker versus Sting. We never got Goldberg versus Stone Cold, but we could actually get Punk versus Kenta. Can the inspiration live up to the original?
Oh my God.
Because Punk is a way bigger star than Kenta ever was.
This is true. Oh man, I don't know, man.
Right? Who did it first versus who did it better?
I like Kenta. He's definitely not Pro Wrestling Noah Kenta anymore. I think injuries and just age slowed him down. But dude, and same with Punk, obviously. But man, I got a hunch Kenta's gonna kick Punk once, and Punk's gonna be like, fuck that, brother."
Yeah, I don't know if Punk wants to work that stiff. Yeah, you're probably right. He works kind of snug, but Kenta is stiff. He just kicks you. That's not even stiff. He just kicks you.
I don't think that's what we'd get out of it, but we'd get something similar. If you had a Punk and or a Kenta Bryan match, holy shit, they'd just be kicking the fuck out of each other. But Punk and Kenta's the go-to. I think Bryan has to be the match versus Okada. If not, holy shit, what if Kenny Omega's back?
Well, a lot of people are thinking Omega, also Ibushi could be back by then. We don't know about him. As far as Bryan, I'd like to see Bryan with anybody from New Japan, man. Naito, Anybody but Suzuki. We already got Suzuki.
We already got it. Yeah, and honestly, as much as I want Bryan and Okada, I just have a hunch they're going to go like what you said, Blackpool Combat Club. We'll probably get Bryan and Mox. Maybe we'll get Bryan and Mox against Jeff Cobb and Great O'Khan. I don't know. Um, I think that would be fun, but I think this is the year Bryan goes to Japan and does the G1. If they do it
That's what I
again
was
at
hearing.
this like October is around the time frame they did it in 21. So if they do it again, they usually did it in like August, September. It ended in, I think I wanted to say it ended like end of August. I don't think they'd let Bryan go at that time because All Out happens right at the end of August, first week of September. So I think that Bryan, if the G1's in like October, like it was last year, Bryan in the G1, and that's holy shit.
Dude,
That's
I
gonna
could
be
see him
fucking
going.
amazing.
Dude, even if it overlaps with the pay-per-view, like the card, dude, AEW is so stacked. They're not gonna miss Bryan Danielson.
They
For
wouldn't,
one
but All
show.
Out is like one of their biggest shows of the year. That's where he showed up.
Yeah, but
I just
again,
don't think that they
having
would let Bryan be gone because it's like a 4 week long tournament.
yeah, but
So
again, it's not like like that's one pay-per-view or one
sure,
storyline cycle, right? So it's not like they already rotate them out, a month, on and a month off. They could make that his month off. They could easily
maybe.
write that off. They could even put that in the storyline. Like, oh yeah,
Oh,
Bryan Danielson isn't going to be here. He's going to be at G1. Give
and
us
they could do weekly updates.
yeah, because I think this is AEW's way of getting someone into G1. I know
Yeah,
Moxley wants in, and
he already did it once, but yeah.
I know he wants in. I think the rumors that I've been reading were that Bryan and Punk may want to, but
Oh,
I
I don't
don't
know
know
if
if
Punk
Punk
could
could do it.
hang.
Yeah, I don't think Punk
Dude,
would be able to.
it's wrestling like every other day for 4 weeks straight, and those matches are, unless you're wrestling Toru Yano, those matches are hard. I mean, it's one of my favorite times of the year, to be quite honest. I didn't go through all the G1 last year. It didn't really interest me as much, um, just because there was hardly any foreign talent. I like seeing the mix of Japanese and American and British, and I like seeing the collaboration between different promotions coming in for the G1. Dude, I loved it when Pro Wrestling Noah lent two people over to the G1 a few years back. It was Nakajima. Oh man, I'm blanking on the second guy, and that sucks because he's awesome. But he ended up pinning Okada during the G1 and got a title match after the G1. And see, that's the one thing I love about the G1 is it's so unpredictable.
It's
But yeah, dude,
canon too.
Forbidden Door. Fuck, man. I'm gonna be at Double or Nothing, and when this got announced, I was kicking myself for going to Double or Nothing. I can't swing that trip, 4 weeks later, and then from go to Chicago for a couple days, man.
Yeah, that's
I'm
a bit
still
much.
excited for Double or Nothing, but dude, I think Forbidden Door would have been the one I would have picked had I known.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's kind of weird that they didn't give us at least a year out for something
You know
so
what?
big.
How
Like
hard is it though with the pandemic and the changes with the restrictions that have all kind of come about? Like I'm willing to bet this has been planned for a good while. The restrictions were there. I mean, it's the reason why most people like weren't in Japan. It's why Jay White was here in America. Other than I think his fiance or wife or whoever lives here in America. I think they met during his excursion after he was a young boy. But it was tough. Like even Will Ospreay, when he went back, he had to go for Wrestle Kingdom. He went back and had to sit in a hotel for 2 weeks before he could even go out. So he was there mid-December because they had to be ready by January 4th. So missed Christmas by himself, all of that. And now that they don't have that 2 week quarantine, I think I'm guessing that's why they're doing it. It's why Suzuki was coming out here for months at a time. Ishii was coming out here for months at a time. Just the restrictions would just prevented them from going back and forth before COVID. I mean, shit. They did a G1 show in Texas and then were in Japan on like Sunday, and that was like on a Sunday, and then they did the G1 in Japan on like a Thursday. Wouldn't have happened last year. Um,
yeah. Dude,
yeah, dude, I'm excited. I'll tell you, there's some pretty bad takes, in my opinion, about this whole Forbidden Door thing. Um, there's people saying this is stupid. They don't like it because it doesn't do anything for the casual fan. This, this
when
isn't how
is
you grow your business by having a diehard fan show of New Japan and AEW. Like, seriously?
dude,
That's the people. A lot of people are saying that.
dude, they sell Bullet Club T-shirts at Hot Topic. Like, I don't think New Japan is diehard wrestling. Like, I just don't. I think it's it's not WWE, it's that second layer. I would say that New Japan is about as big as AEW.
In America, I'd put them a little bit under. I think the pandemic
No,
hit them
because if you
pretty
think
damn hard in
worldwide,
their popularity.
if you think worldwide, no one is as big in America as AEW besides WWE. Let's not count WWE, okay? Nobody's as big in America, which is like the biggest market for wrestling, as AEW.
Mm-hmm.
But AEW doesn't have shit in Japan. Japan, nobody is as big in Japan as New Japan. Not even WWE is as big as New Japan, okay? But New Japan ain't shit in America. So if you just look at like their fan bases, like, yeah, I think AEW and New Japan internationally are about as even on a worldwide scale. They've just got access to they just are locked out of each other's big market. And so this is big. This is less about AEW getting casuals and more about AEW getting the Asian market. That's what this is about. And
here's something pretty cool. AEW within the last, I think this happened around the beginning of April. So like 2 weeks ago. AEW Dynamite and Rampage and Dark and Elevation are now on New Japan World, their streaming service. I think it shows up within a couple days after airing in America, and you can get the American version. But they also are having Japanese commentators for New Japan do commentary over Dynamite and Rampage and all those shows. So now that they're going to have Japanese commentary, but it's all going to stream off of New Japan World. It's not live, and it is still region locked. So you have to be in Japan or have a VPN and connect to Japan to watch those shows.
Dude, shut the fuck up. Nord doesn't sponsor us. Until those assholes start giving us sponsorship money, don't get a VPN, listeners. Fuck that shit. Just use regular internet and get destroyed.
I have a VPN. VPNs are awesome. They're very protective. I used it last week when I had to use public Wi-Fi.
We don't get paid by them. But, no,
I feel... VPN, ExpressVPN, sponsor us. That'd be pretty damn cool, though.
Right.
But, yeah, dude, I couldn't believe those takes of this isn't going to grow AEW's business. Why would we pay attention to? I'm like, this is what AEW fans want. Well, this is the type of wrestling. The wrestling that you are getting out of Dynamite and Rampage, it's the wrestling that you would have watched for New Japan too. It's those types of good quality matches. It's where the in-ring work really matters. It's like, again, I'm not saying the wrestlers at WWE are bad. They're produced, and I consider that more of a movie style of a wrestling match. I'm sure there's still, we'll call it in the ring, brother, but most of it, I'm sure, is, you're produced. Make sure you hit your camera angles and all of this, where I want to see just wrestling. I don't care if they're doing a headlock and facing the goddamn hard cam. It doesn't matter to me. I'm sure it matters to some, not to me. But that's the type of wrestling I want. And if it wasn't for New Japan, AEW wouldn't even be existing. I know, yes, the Elite and all of that, the Bucks, that's what really brought them. But it was their being the Elite vlogs of them in Japan and the matches they put on in Japan. Hell, you could watch an old one of the first New Japan shows that happened in America. It was in Long Beach. Go back and watch. Look who's sitting right up front. Tony Khan and Alex Marvez. And this was like 2017, 2018. Tony was already thinking, and he's sitting there. What is he wearing? Bullet Club t-shirt.
Right.
Yeah, he's the mark, but and I don't like using mark as a derogatory term. I think mark's anybody who's a fan of the business, and the boys are the biggest marks in the world. We got into the business. That's why we're marks. But Tony Khan was the mark for the business. Cool. Love it. I love that he's a fucking wrestling fan. But that's what I want. I want those matches. I would rather go see Forbidden Door than a 2-night WrestleMania.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think the issue, a lot of people are saying, how is this going to grow the business? And I think it's just kind of narrow minded, like Americanocentric thought. Now, like when
I
you're
wouldn't say
thinking of,
American centric,
oh,
but WWE centric
no,
thoughts in my opinion.
It's Americanocentric because when you get outside of America, wrestling doesn't exist. Okay, WWE has this big global presence, but it's more as like a sideshow circus act, like Barnum and Bailey's coming to town. It's like, oh, WWE is coming to town. Let's go see that because we don't have that in our country, and I don't know what WWE is. Right? I mean, that's literally what's going on in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the Indian shows. Like, there's a few people in India that are in tune to American Western culture that maybe know about wrestling, like WWE, that way. But if anything, in India, they probably watch New Japan. That's probably wrestling to them.
So
Middle East, South,
you know what, they may.
Yeah,
They may. I don't know what New Japan's TV status is currently internationally. I know they have the show here on Access TV.
No, they have a TV deal
you,
in India.
But you go to like I forget who it was. It might have been Will Ospreay. When he was watching wrestling growing up, it was like all I had was New Japan.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to go to New Japan. Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot like back in the 80s and early 90s when you had regional wrestling television shows. When you had guys that were, if you lived up in the Midwest and the northern Midwest areas, you watched AWA. You probably didn't see WWE or NWA too much. And the ones down in the Carolinas and the South, you had the NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions. And you didn't really see WWF at the time. You know, so that's probably how it is more internationally. I mean, WWE, like you said, it's global. I'm sure it's everywhere. I know it's in India, mainly because a buddy of mine went to India because Great Khali was starting his own wrestling promotion.
Oh, God.
And he wanted to start his own wrestling school. Well, Khali ain't training shit. So he called my buddy, Ricardo Rodriguez. So he went out there for 6 months and trained these dudes up. And when they got done, they did a show in front of like 20, 30,000 people, I want to say. And a lot of these guys, that was their first match in front of like 30,000 people. They packed a damn stadium. And Khali was there and all of that. Apparently, I don't know if there was a big issue with it, but he never went back. Same thing in Egypt. He's got flown to Egypt to train people. So I know that there's the want for it internationally. I'm sure WWE's available damn near anywhere. I mean, it's why they have, it's why they have such a vast, racially different group of people. I'm sorry, I can't think of the right way to say it, but it's just a very diverse. There we go. It's a very diverse roster from people that are international, because you got to appeal to fans in Mexico, Japan, India, UK, places like that. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if a lot of people watch New Japan internationally than they can here. I'll say this: I wish New Japan was a lot easier to access in America. Like, their streaming platform is New Japan World. The only streaming device you can get it on is an Amazon Fire TV or Fire Stick. You can't get it anywhere else. There's no app. There's no Apple TV, no Roku, no Samsung TV, no app for your PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. You have to access it via a browser. And I find that just to be so archaic in 2022. And the fact that they haven't tried to do that, to me, is limiting their exposure. Maybe with the pandemic over, we'll see a little bit more of that happen. But that's how I would watch it. That's how we watched New Japan.
They have their show, right? What is it, New Japan Strong or New Japan Power? That's on YouTube or something now.
Strong. I don't know if it's on YouTube. I know it's on Fight, but you might have to pay for it. It might be free. I'm not sure. But it's all on New Japan World. But again, it's a browser. I would have to use a tablet or my computer and stream from my tablet to my television or streaming device the New Japan shows. And it's just a hassle. I hate having to do AirPlay or screen mirroring. Just give me a damn app on my streaming device that I have. I think that's one of New Japan's problems. Like, this show will be probably live on New Japan World. Well, it might be region locked, but it'll be on New Japan World.
But what I'm saying is that the whole like argument about this not growing AEW's audience and how that's an Americano-centric thing, because dude, there are people in Europe, right? Like you said, Will Ospreay grew up with New Japan. He didn't have WWE. It just didn't come on where he was at. It wasn't even like he was anti-WWE. He was just like, I've never seen this show. What the hell is this? I watch New Japan, right? So there's internationally, right? And I'm not even talking like buttfuck Egypt. I'm talking like Europe. Will Ospreay's from fucking England. Dude, there's parts of Scotland that don't get WWE. You know, there are parts of France that get only New Japan. And those people have never heard of AEW. So, like, when you think...
Which would suck.
Well, I mean, it does suck. But you know what? Since they get New Japan, now they're going to get exposed to AEW.
Yeah.
And likewise for, you know...
The one thing I think is different here is everyone's like, oh, how does this expand your audience? Okay, sure, they're not bringing in Johnny Knoxville and Logan Paul to try and drag in their fan base. But here's what AEW does... And this is why I think this is where I think their strategy is. I don't know. This is my guess. They're a pro wrestling company. The product they put on is good pro wrestling. If you're a fan of good pro wrestling, you're going to eventually find AEW. You will. You know, for the fans from WWE who don't watch AEW, they're going to see Cody Rhodes come back and be like, oh, where was Cody? And go Google, where was Cody Rhodes? What's All Elite Wrestling? You know, I think that's where they're trying to grow their audience. It's not necessarily from advertising and bringing these celebrities in. And yes, you do need to do that. I think it's from gaining the public trust. Well, you don't need Logan Paul. But I think it's from gaining the public trust on, we put on good wrestling shows. You know, again, there's going to be fans who don't like AEW or their style of wrestling. They prefer the WWE style. Hey, good for you. I am 100% happy that you found what you like. And if you don't like AEW, that's cool too. I do. It's the wrestling I liked. I enjoy today.
Right.
I think that's where they're trying to grow. Is it's not from just bringing in people and trying to get that, a fan base that's not there. I think it's we're trying to give you, we're promising you, we do good wrestling shows. Give us a chance and we'll hook you.
Right.
And I think that's where they're trying to grow their audience. And this show would do that.
Yeah. I can't see this as anything less than a net positive for AEW. I think the people that are against this show are just AEW haters. Like, maybe there are fans of New Japan that just don't want AEW involved. Right? Because there's a lot of people, like, if AEW did a crossover show with WWE, there would be AEW fans that are like, why are you bringing that WWE shit near my wrestling? So I imagine there are probably a lot of New Japan fans that are like, what the fuck, dude, AEW? I don't want that shit near my New Japan.
Dude, there's New Japan fans, even American New Japan fans, and I would probably call them like the classic New Japan fans, where like they didn't like the Kenny Omegas, the Young Bucks. It was like, no, give me Okada, give me Tanahashi, give me Minoru Suzuki, give me the Japanese wrestlers that I want to see. I don't want to see the Young Bucks. I don't want to see the Americans come in. I don't want to see the Gaijins. I want to see the Japanese style. And that's potentially, like you said, there's probably some New Japan fans that are like, I don't care about this at all. I don't want to watch AEW people. I want to watch Japanese wrestling. And there's some people going, I wish AEW booked Japanese talent better, and like the New Japan talent. Like if you look at Minoru Suzuki, he's really just been there to put other people over.
Well, but
Tomohiro Ishii's done a match, and he just put people over. I mean, he was here for months. You could have booked him every week. You could have put him on Dark and having him beat a bunch of people. You could have put him on Dynamite.
What are you going to get from that? You're going to have him put over your job squad, and then he leaves. It's
exactly.
like, okay, yeah, the big payoff is that we built him up. We had him beat Dante Martin and Powerhouse Hobbs, all of our undercard, and then we had the big payoff and he put over Jon Moxley, but now he's gone and Jon Moxley was already over and we just squashed our up-and-comers to do it. So I get why they just said, all right,
I
well,
get
he doesn't need a lot of build for the people that know. And for the people that don't know, if he can impress them, they'll go and research his shit. Let's just do it. Suzuki versus Moxley. And I
there's
feel
people
like
that
that's
actually hate that. There's people that go, no, you shouldn't let us go research it. You need to tell us what everything is. And I'm like, holy shit, you are just brainwashed, man. Just because that's what WWE does doesn't mean you need to, everybody needs to do it that way.
See, and I hate that, dude. I used to love when wrestlers were fucking mysterious, dude. When we really thought Kamala ate people. You know? It's like, who the fuck is, like, dog, I don't need a backstory. You throw this guy out there and you say, yeah, he's a guy named Murder Grandpa and he's from Japan. Like, that's literally all I told my wife. My wife was like, who is this guy? And I'm like, they call him the Murder Grandpa. He's an old dude from Japan, and I guess he murders people. And that was it. And it was interesting. It's like, oh, who is this guy? And now she loves him. She's a huge fan. Every time he's on Dynamite, she's like, oh, sweet, Murder Grandpa. This is going to be a good match. But, like, he didn't need a bat. And my wife is as casual as they come. In fact, you know, she doesn't know what a Crockett promotion is, you know? And so if she can understand and get involved in Minoru Suzuki from just one match and the description that literally I gave her from the commentators, right? Like Tony Schiavone probably, here comes the Murder Grandpa from Japan. Like, that's literally all I did. I'm sure Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross can do that too. And that's it. Like, let the guy, Minoru Suzuki got himself over. Like, he didn't need a backstory. He went out there, he beat the fuck out of Jon Moxley, and my wife was like, wow, he could hang with Jon Moxley. He must be pretty good. I'm going to keep watching his matches. Don't need no story other than that. So to all the people,
the logical thought process of
right?
it.
All these people, oh, these New Japan guys aren't going to get over. And I'm like, dude, fucking put Okada in there. Just let them see. The only people who aren't sold on Okada are the people who have never seen Okada. The only people not sold on Will Ospreay are the people that look at Will Ospreay and they're like, oh, another fucking cruiserweight. And it's like, yeah, dude, he's kind of different. He's kind of not just a flip guy.
Especially now, the dude's put on a lot of size. I mean, hell, he was the world heavyweight champion for New Japan for a minute. I mean, he's fantastic. You know, my wife's not a big Will Ospreay fan. There was some, you know, shit that came out about him over the last couple of years, where it was like that whole speaking out or Me Too movement within the wrestling business. I guess there was somebody that Ospreay when the rumors first hit, and it wasn't during that whole speaking out thing, it was during, I guess, years ago. And Ospreay was like, no, that's my buddy. He never would do anything like that. Well, it turns out he did. You know, and he stuck up for the guy who was being accused of all this stuff, and it turns out, well, Will was wrong. The guy did it. And I think he even came out and was just like, hey, my bad. I stuck up for a guy who was my friend, and I believed what he said.
I can't fault him for that.
I don't fault him for that at all.
That could have been any one of us.
Absolutely. And that's the way I look at it. And I'm like, yeah, was he dumb? Sure.
I can't even say dumb. I find it admirable that he stuck up for his friend, even though his friend ended up being wrong. He still stuck up for him. And yeah, after he found out he was a scumbag, he was like, yeah, fuck that guy now that we know. But when he didn't know, he stuck up for his boy.
Everyone's kind of like, yeah, Will, it was quite obvious that it was true even back then. And I get it.
No,
again, I wasn't there. I don't even know the entire story.
Court of law, dude. You can come up with all the evidence in the world, but until they're tried in a court of law in front of a jury and a judge, then they're innocent. I don't give a fuck. And here's the deal. People are forgetting that, like, with the internet, you get all this fucking feedback and all that from other countries. And I'm like, that's fine, dude. It's cool to hear the opinion of someone in France. But, yo, I'm not in France. I don't follow France's laws, and French people don't follow my laws. So kindly fuck the fuck off, right? So when it comes to something like that, I don't care how you believe in your country. I'm tired of edgelord European teenagers criticizing us and talking shit. It's like, no, dude, like, they never found anything on him. And until they did, right, then, and that's why I find it, admirable from Will Ospreay until it was found clear and proof and evidence and there's consequences and the law is involved. This isn't he said, she said. There was a crime committed and justice was done, and I believed my friend was innocent until proven guilty, and when he was proven guilty, fuck him. But until then, he stood by his friend and then realized the error of his ways, but that doesn't make him a bad person or make him wrong. It makes him a good person. Dude,
there was something else I'm trying to remember where he there was some, like, I want to say it was like a female wrestler or somebody did a move that belonged to somebody else. I'm trying to remember the full story, and he I'll be honest, he overreacted. And I even want to say he came out with an apology, like, yeah, my bad. That was a dumb reaction on my part.
Yeah, people do mistakes. I don't know. Maybe because we're old, we don't give a shit. You look at this from like young wrestling fans. It's like every little mistake. It's like, oh my God, I never ever want to see them again. And it's like, yeah, like there are very few things. Like, you know, Chris Benoit. I could live with never ever watching anything to do with Chris Benoit ever again.
I mean, he killed his family.
Like, that's a line, right? But it's like, oh, one time 12 years ago, like, he made an inappropriate joke. And it's like, oh, God. Yeah, whatever.
I'm with you on that. You know, if cancel culture was a real thing, 100% of us would be canceled.
That shit took Brian Kendrick versus Bryan Danielson away from us. I'll never forget.
Motherfuckers.
Never forgive.
It'll happen
never
eventually.
Forget.
It'll happen eventually.
Dude, we
Kendrick
were gonna
is still
get that
his
in
promotion.
Yeah, but we were gonna get that in AEW, not some watered down WWE. We're gonna go through our three big spots and then a finish. Like, they were gonna do a full on AEW style wrestling match.
I think it'll happen. They're just waiting for whatever to die down. They could do it now, and I'm sure everything would be fine. But yeah, I think that's.
I mean, if it makes people feel better, like, I'm pretty sure whoever was in corporate at WWE that fired Brian Kendrick was probably a Jew anyways. So, like, there you go. One time he made Jew jokes, and then a Jew fired him in the future, and now we could call it a wash. Come on, man, I want this match.
He even said that he had to atone for those words when they brought him back for the Cruiserweight Classic in 2016. He already had to address it, and he had already apologized for what he said, and he had to address it to WWE to show, yeah, that's not me, man. I was stupid. I was young. That was right after y'all fired me the first time, or the second time, whatever it was. And he's like, yeah, I was stupid. And he's like, I don't believe those things. And he's like, I'm like, dude, why do you have to apologize 10 years later now? You know?
Exactly. Anyways. Moving on.
Dude, I'm pumped for Forbidden Door. Yes, moving on.
Right, moving on. What was the there was another thing you wanted to discuss. Something about a website. So
I've got not a website. It was a podcast. And it was kind of you've been approaching me about doing this podcast. Holy shit, months, maybe a year before we actually did it. You approached me about it. And I was hesitant, you know. Who the fuck am I? You know, why would anyone want to listen to, you know, two guys speak about wrestling? You know, it's not like we were famous, you know, but listening to these two guys, their names are Danny and Adam. And both of them used to train with me when I had my own wrestling school. And they started their own podcast. They've been doing podcasts for a while now, but it's called the Random Podcast. And I'd done a post on Instagram about our podcast, and Danny saw it and was like, holy crap. And I even told him, I was like, you know, listening to you and Adam is why I took you up on this offer to do the podcast, because I was like, man, these are two childhood friends that are bullshitting about life and wrestling and baseball and all sorts of shit. And I was like, damn, it just sounds like fun. Whether you get one listener, no listeners, 1,000 listeners, you know, it's just fun to kind of bullshit with your buddies, you know. And they, like I said, they saw that we started a podcast, and I had posted it on my personal Facebook. And even Adam was like, wait, you never told me. And then, you know, Danny chimed in. He's like, yeah, he posted it on Instagram, tagged you in it. But yeah, listening to them is like, damn it, you know what? This sounds like it would be a lot of fun. And so this week they just dropped their podcast. I want to say it was like last night or the day before. I didn't get a chance to listen to it until today. But they talked a lot about our history in wrestling and how they would come to when we had our New Wave Pro Wrestling school. I ran a wrestling promotion. I ran it for 5 years, from 2007 to 2012. I ran it with my old tag team partner. It was called New Wave Pro Wrestling. We ran out of San Diego, California. And they were just talking about the old times, and they were talking about the time when we all this is how old it was. Superbad was in the theaters, and we all went to a movie theater and watched Superbad together as it was me, my tag partner, who were the trainers, and then the students that we had that were at least 18 came out. I think at that time everyone was 18 and over. And it was just cool to listen to these guys, and they said some really cool things about me, my tag partner Andy, and one of my closest wrestling friends. I mean, he's like a brother to me too. His name's SoCal Crazy. I mean, I have his face tattooed on my arm, and we have actually a tattoo shared between myself, Andy, and SoCal Crazy. All have the same tattoo on our forearm. Because it was like a brotherhood in wrestling. It's funny, when you and I first started training at Jesse Hernandez's, the School of Hard Knocks,
right?
The funny thing is, how many times did everyone just start calling you brother, and how much did that wear off into your daily vernacular?
Because Jesse's like fucking dude, all those fuckers, Jesse and fucking Steve Masters, and all of them were from the Hulk Hogan era. Mm-hmm. So they all talk like that. They're like, listen, brother, hey, come over here, brother. Do you want to grab some beers after this, brother?
So and it's hilarious how I adopted it. Dude, I've been out of wrestling, officially since 2014, but I still would show up to one of my buddies had a training school for SoCal Pro, and so if he ever needed someone to kind of step in to coach a class for the night, he would call me. So I was still around wrestling until I moved to Colorado in 2017. But yeah, I mean, even today, I've been gone for almost 8 years, where I was wrestling almost full time, and I still use brother on a daily basis. But yeah, man, listening to those guys, they talked about the old times. We ran our school from like early 07, and then we closed it shortly before we closed the promotion. And yeah, it was just pretty cool. It's just a lot of nostalgia talk. They were talking a lot about wrestling, some of the things they liked and the things they didn't like about how Andy and I handled business. They brought up one fact where there was a gentleman that used to be affiliated with us. His name was Adam, not the Adam from the podcast, a different Adam. He runs a wrestling company now called West Coast Wrestling Company. I actually think is what it's called. And we had a falling out with them, and we told our students, like, hey, if you want to work for them, you don't work for us. Simple as that. And that was something, and they chose to go north to that other guy. No harm, no foul. I didn't hate anybody for it. It was their decision. They made mention of, they didn't like the fact that as trainers were like, you can't wrestle for them. And at the time, and I see what they meant. At the time, this was like 2008. I mean, come on, I'm 25, 26. Like, I was young as hell, dumb as hell, and that was it. We didn't like the guy. We didn't like the guy who was promoting those shows. So we're like, don't go work for him. And a lot of it had to do with like, hey, I don't want you guys working on bogus ass shows. Do legitimate shit. And not to say his stuff wasn't legitimate, but that's what it was. And hindsight being 2020, probably wouldn't have put that, hey, I'm not going to let you guys work for me if you're going to work for him type shit. And it sucked because, Danny from that podcast, his ring name was Rick Ellis. And this was actually pretty cool. He had his first match at a New Wave Pro show against a gentleman named Ariel Starr. First ever match had a standing ovation.
Wow. Wow, that's
the
actually
dude just took to fucking wrestling. It was insane how he took to wrestling. It didn't help that, or it helped that he also had a ring in his backyard. So he'd come to our school, train for 3 days, and then the other days he was at his ring, and he would teach his brother and his friends what we taught at training and stuff.
I mean, he was practicing.
So he was practicing, but there's a difference between practice and real life. Getting out there in front of the crowd and actually being in front of it. It's like, it's it's night and day. You can have the most amazing practice match, and I actually had a student like that. He would have decent practice matches and they were good. And it was like, oh, we're going to put you on a show. And then his show matches were just bad. And it's like,
Right.
man, why are you so good at training? And I think it was the audience,
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it just got me cool. It just got me, thinking nostalgia. And, I was in wrestling, you and I went to Jesse's school in July of 2002. We weren't there very long before you got hurt, and then I stepped away because I had to finish school. And I went back in 2004, where I trained with the Colorado Kid, Mike Rapata, former NWA World Champion. And then that, from there we started up New Wave Pro Wrestling a few years after I went to Mike's. Like I said, we ran that for about 5 years. We had some pretty cool guys coming through. Our shows were just, looking back, they were just small indie shows. I think our biggest show we ran, I think we had like 400 people was our biggest, but our average was anywhere from about probably 50 to 100. Sometimes less. I mean, there were shows we ran which had 10 people in the audience.
Damn.
That's
Dude,
I wrestled on a show where the boys showed up. Two fans showed up, and the boys were like, I ain't wrestling. And so they sat in the crowd where the boys outnumbered the fans. I've wrestled on shows like that.
Jesus.
It's interesting, man. But yeah, dude, just like I said, just got me thinking about what I did. I wrestled for pretty actively almost every weekend from 2004 to 2014. And I got to wrestle some cool people. I got to wrestle with Diamond Dallas Page, Buff Bagwell, Rick Steiner, the Honky Tonk Man, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, coked out Brutus the Barber Beefcake, no less. It was just cool. I just started thinking about, the ribs and stuff that we'd pull. I as you know, I have a very immature sense of humor, and probably the funniest thing to me that I did. So as a tag team wrestler and as a heel, I always we portrayed the foil to the baby faces. We'd get our pants pulled down, we'd get into embarrassing spots. And so we had done this spot in a tag match where we had lost our pants. So we're wrestling in boxer shorts and our tops. And my tag team partner was sitting in the corner. And our one of our opponents was standing in front of him. I see it. I come running at the corner. And he moves, sweeps my leg out, and I end up giving my partner a Bronco Buster. Nothing major. Well, I roll off the Bronco Buster, and I roll backwards. So now my feet are behind my head. My partner sells like he just fell forward, but when he fell forward, he fell forward right into my ass.
Oh.
I had one brewing. So as soon as he fell in, I was like, oh, it's the perfect moment. And I rip a fart right in that dude's nose. Like, it was like nose to asshole. Like, it was...
No.
As soon as I rip the fart, he pushes me aside. Now, again, I'm supposed to sell like I'm hurt. I am shaking violently with laughter. And my tag team partner under his breath is, you motherfucker, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And I am crying with laughter in the mat, like just like hyperventilating with laughter. That was one of the best things I ever did.
The best thing you ever did was fart in a guy's mouth.
Dude. I love thinking about that, and oh my god. Like I said, I have as almost a 40-year-old man, I have a very immature sense of humor. But, like right when he fell in, I'm like, oh my god, it's the perfect moment. I have to do this. And I pushed it out, and he felt it and smelt it. I mean, you ever had one of those air cannons shot at you? It was like a small little air cannon shot him right in the face.
Fucking potato gun.
Yes. Oh my god! Dude, I
said
ripped
I pushed it out.
I had to. Like, where else am I gonna get that situation? I'm glad he didn't get pink eye out of it, but I mean, come on, man! Like that was one of the funniest things I remember doing in wrestling, and there's only 2 of us that knew it at the time.
You nasty motherfucker!
We get backstage and he's hot. He laughs about it now, but motherfucker was hot.
I can picture just a big ass wrestler, man. Just, why you got a fart in my mouth, motherfucker?
Pretty much. And I'm dying. I'm like cracking up. I couldn't contain it. Like if there's any, like I was corpsing. They should have sent for the man. It was so bad. Yeah, there was absolute no way in hell you'd be looking at me going, like, I'm sure a fan was sitting there going, why is he shaking? He's laughing. Why is he laughing? Nobody fucking knew. And like I said, just under his breath, he's like, you motherfucker, I'm gonna. Oh, and it's shit like that, things like that I remember. I remember, oh my God, I broke my nose in a match. I was out of place for a spot where a guy did a springboard crossbody in the ring, and I was a little too far back. So when I caught him, his forearm came and just flattened my nose. I wish I still had the picture because somebody actually had a perfect shot of the guy's forearm on my nose, and my nose was just flat. Well, it exploded with blood. I rolled to the floor where my tag partner was, just because I was selling, and I hear my tag team partner going, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm fine. It's probably just a broken nose. And he goes, no, I'm talking to myself. I'm going to faint from the blood. He hated blood. So just the explosion of blood out of my nose was enough to make him queasy. And I'm sitting there like, I'm the one with the broken nose and you're pep talking yourself?
What the fuck? Oh, and he's the one that's actually, for those of you that are listening and don't know, Ryan ran a military gimmick where they were sailors, and and it's because his tag team partner actually is a sailor. So like, it wasn't a wrestling gimmick for him. He actually was a soldier, and he's the one
Navy.
That's afraid of blood.
Right? He was a cook in the Navy, so he wasn't like he was on, seeing actual combat a lot. And he did go into some pretty nasty areas, but yeah, he was a cook in the Navy. Not to trivialize what he went through. He went through some shit. He was
no.
He was after the tsunami. Where was that big ass tsunami? Not the Philippines.
Japan, Malaysia, or Thailand.
I forget. Thailand, I think. Yeah. He was a part of the rescue efforts, and he's like, dude, we're pulling up into port, and there's just bodies floating all through the water. Yeah, he's seen some shit. So I won't ever trivialize what he did.
But he's scared of blood.
I found it quite funny that he's squeamish about blood. But he was in the Navy, and it wasn't even his blood. Like, I can understand being squeamish of your own blood, but I'm like, I'm the one that has blood just pouring down my nose.
Yeah.
It was fun, man. If anyone ever wants to look it up, I'm sure there's some stuff on YouTube. I think on my own personal YouTube, I have a couple highlight videos. I think I did a match, a dark match for Ring of Honor in Arizona during WrestleMania 26 weekend.
Wow.
I got some like highlights of stuff on my personal YouTube. If you look up Anchors Away was our tag team. That was the name of our team. If you look up Anchors Away Wrestling, I'm sure something will pop up. But yeah, man, you know what? It was.
You have a Wikipedia. You're on Wikipedia. You don't have Wikipedia, but you're on the Young Bucks' Wikipedia.
No shit.
Yeah, it mentions how they beat you guys for the EWF tag titles, and you're on the EWF website. Where
they did not beat us for the tag belts. We challenged them for the belts, and they beat us. Here's a funny story. The booker of the promotion was a gentleman named Cincinnati Red. He has since passed away. That was so sad. There was a lot of people that owe a lot to Cincinnati Red.
Pretty much all of SoCal. All of SoCal owed him.
He came from Slammers, which was kind of the offshoot for almost to XPW level stuff. Slammers, I think, became SCCW, and then the offshoot of that then became XPW, and a lot of the people from them just kind of kept going through. But Red he pulled us aside, was like, yeah, and I only found this out years later, that it was either going to be us or the Bucks winning the tag belts. And I was like, oh man, well, why didn't we win them? And he goes, well, the Bucks were going to do their first tour of Japan. So we thought, let's put the belts on them and they'll take them to Japan. They didn't.
Oh, man.
But hey, we got to wrestle the Bucks. This was like 2009, I want to say it was. Maybe 8. And yeah, it was fun, man. You know, seeing a lot of these guys, and you and I've had the talk. You know, I crossed just like we talked about last week, where I had booked Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus in their first matches. I booked Miro in his first match. There's a lot of people that that I saw. Scorpio Sky was around a lot.
Oh man, I don't want to
Um,
talk about Scorpio Sky.
Dude,
Uh,
I'm just so happy he's getting his just due now. I mean, he's been good for years.
yeah, but
I'm so happy he's getting it. A lot of those SoCal guys, heck, I Rick Knox refereed a bunch of my matches.
I'm just saying he needs to
Um,
get that belt back. Scorpio, if you're listening to this, don't take that shit from that little punk. Get your belt back.
I hope he does. I wish he had a longer title run. But hey, you know what's fucking cool about that? He had like a 400-day winning streak. Hadn't lost a singles match, dude. Scorp, they put Scorp over. He was such a good dude. And there's a lot of people that
He had
are in
one
SoCal that I just
jacked
kind of
up
ran
defense,
through.
though.
What's that?
He only had one jacked up defense.
I know. I wish he had more. Again, he'll get another run. I think he'll get another run. Watch Dynamite. They actually address it. Um, but yeah, like I said, it just got me thinking nostalgia, and you know, I want to talk more about what I did back then. You know, again, there was decisions I made I thought were right. There were decisions I made that I thought were stupid. They were talking about one where after I guess one of the shows we ran, I guess I went on a rant about people actually acting like heels, and it was if you do a fucking dive as a heel, fuck you or something
wow.
like that. And you know, again, 25, 26, I had strong beliefs. Do I still believe that? To a point. I believe heels can be a little bit more flashy, but it's tough to be flashy when you want people to hate you, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, it was and it was just that was just something that they brought up on their podcast, and I had said that, and they didn't agree with it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't agree with it today. My views have changed, but you know the business has changed. It's evolved.
You know
You
what,
know,
dude? But like Shawn Michaels did that shit as a heel. Buddy Rogers did that shit I mean, he was pretty flashy for his time. Nowadays, we would consider him very boring and dry, but for his time, he was considered flashy. Billy Graham was considered flashy. So, like, I don't get that whole, like, bad guys can't be flashy. That doesn't make sense to
yeah,
me.
I get it. Like my whole thing was, if you're gonna be a heel, don't do stuff to make the people cheer for you. You know, do like if you
Well,
want to do
no,
a
but
dive, you're gonna get a pop, but turn it around and get that heat back. But here's the thing: in today's wrestling, I think the heel babyface dynamic is a lot different. It's not really like, oh, I'm gonna boo the heel and cheer the baby. People like both sides of the aisle now. You know, just because you could be a heel, cheat all the time, you know, be just as much of an asshole as you want to be, and people are still going to cheer you because they enjoy what you do. MJF is a perfect example. He's booed
or
because you're
Moxley,
supposed to
John
boo him, and he
Moxley.
talks about it. But like, you look at Brian. Brian is kind of being a lot of heelish stuff, but people like what he's doing.
Well,
That's why I
again,
think like the heel babyface dynamic is different. You still have your true heels, but I think there's also like I like that person. Just like when you go look at the Marvel movies, people loved Loki, but in those first couple of movies, the dude was a piece of shit. You know, he was an asshole. But people loved Loki and loved the character and loved what he did. They're not necessarily condoning his actions. They just like the shtick, like the style, and that type of stuff.
yeah,
Um,
I've
and
long
that's where I
since
think the
agreed.
heel babyface dynamic has changed.
I think it's gone. Like, I honestly feel like it's obsolete. Like, what's the point? You know, again, John Moxley bites people. Like, he
Yeah.
literally outright just cheats, and the
Yep.
fans go crazy for it.
Huh?
You know, so like, I think it's more of like AEW does it right. Everybody kind of is their own person, but
Yeah.
if they enter from the left hand side, they're bad and you boo them. And if they enter from the right hand side, they're good, cheer them. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody has their own personality, and you can cheer for
Yes.
whoever you want because, like, again, I generally like the heels. So if I'm at a show, I'm probably going to cheer for Bryan Danielson and the Young
Mm-hmm.
Bucks because they're just guys that I like, even though they're bad guys. But I don't cheer for every heel. I go to the bathroom and buy another beer when Sammy Guevara comes up, you know? So it's like, you know, like I don't cheer every heel and I don't boo every babyface. I like,
Right.
you know, I liked Wheeler Yuta when he was a babyface, but he's a heel now, and now it's just like it's okay for me to like him now that he's evil.
But is he? He still comes out of the babyface entrance. Bryan comes out of the heel entrance. Moxley comes out of the crowd. You know, that's one of the dynamics I love about the Blackpool Combat Club is they're not all. It's not like a group of heels. It's just a group of wrestlers that want to hurt you. And they have different tactics. Like Bryan doesn't really cheat to wrestle in his wrestling matches, but he talks like a heel. You know, and yeah, it's different. You know, again, if I'm wrestling a babyface, I shouldn't be more flashy than the babyface. I shouldn't be doing more stuff to get the positive pop out of the crowd than the babyface should. But that's just my thought of how I'm trying to get him over. If that babyface can't do the flashier things, well, then none of us will do flashier things. We'll do what we're both good at.
No, but see, I disagree with that because the Young Bucks, dude, their heel run right now is probably the best work they've done, like, since starting AEW. And they're flashy, but they get heat. And I think you can do that. Again, Shawn Michaels wrote the book on this, doing moonsaults when nobody even knew what that was. And he still got heat. It's just, if you're not going to get heat, like, people think that there's only one kind of bad guy. It's, I'm not good enough to win, right? I'm not good enough to win, so I have to cheat. But what about the guy who's good enough to win that's a sore loser or a sore winner? Because that's what the Young Bucks are. They're the sore winners. Sure. When I win, I'm going to be an asshole about it. And my showing off and flashiness only enhances how much of a bad winner I am. And so they're not evil.
That's the difference. That's their character. But let's be honest, when they're wrestling other people, they make sure their baby faces that are opposite of them get their shine, get their pops. Yes, the Bucks do things and they look better than most anybody else out there, but it's never at the expense of their opponent.
Yeah, but what the original argument was, don't do dives if you're a heel, and I don't agree with that because Chris Jericho was doing acai moonsaults as a heel back in 1997, and like that was back when even baby faces didn't do moonsaults. And Chris Jericho's like, fuck it, I'm going to do a moonsault. I'm going to do a high-flying move, even though I'm a heel. It's just after I do that really cool move and the fans start cheering for me, I'm going to get my heat back by posing obnoxiously.
There it is. There it is. What you just said is what is needed to be done when you're a heel. You know, like you said, the Bucks will do something flashy, then they do something obnoxious to make the people turn on them again.
Yeah, and so
I see that. And maybe back then I just didn't articulate it that way. I'll be honest, I probably just didn't believe heels should do stuff like that. I always felt heels don't need to be the flashy. Heels should be the ones that are, you know, the slower paced. You should always have your baby faces doing the most flashiest thing.
See, that was where I disagreed with our trainers so much, and I kept my mouth shut because, like, I disagreed
and maybe that's
hard.
That's where that comes from for me.
Yeah, dude, because me and Jesse, like, kind of debated that a lot, and I was like, yeah, but, like, if I can do that shit, like, because I'm thinking in terms of a wrestler as like an independent contractor. Like, yeah, I want the fans to hate me, but at the end of the day, I still need them to buy tickets.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
I've got to do some cool shit. Like, even though I'm the bad guy and I'm supposed to lose and I want them to hate me, I still want them to see my name on the card and know they're going to find some cool shit at that show. Sure. And so that was what I always disagreed with the guys that trained us with it, because they were like, no, man, your job as the heel is to put that on the baby face. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? The baby face doesn't have to go to the next town that I do. And I have to sell tickets at that next show. That's fine for that. If we're fucking WWE and you're going to guarantee me income, right? And you're going to guarantee me that I can work the next Monday Night Raw, okay, because I'm on a contract, then fine. But if you're not WWE and you're not AEW, I need to figure out how to draw at my next show.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, absolutely. I think A good heel is going to figure out how to get over, draw money, and still be a bad guy. Ric Flair did it. If we just follow the blueprint, it's possible.
And I saw people, because I watched, there were people that were heels, but they did nothing dastardly. They did nothing that made them heels other than going, we're bad guys. You know, all their moves were flashy. They would pander to the crowd. Nothing, they would hardly cheat. You know, it's like,
I mean, look at Chuck Taylor's heel.
You're a babyface, though.
Chuck Taylor hardly did any of that. He just argued with the people. And that made him look like an asshole. And so they booed him. You know, like he'd yell at little kids and make little kids cry. Did he cheat? Not really. Like, did he do flashy moves? Yeah, but he was such an asshole. And I feel like you've got to have that. You've got to make it work.
Absolutely. I think you and I are on the same page. And it took a while for me to really realize that. And again, like I said, to me, wrestling's evolved. And my thoughts on wrestling have evolved quite a lot. Heels can be flashy. I truly do believe it. But if you're just being flashy, pandering to the crowd as a babyface like, and not cheating, not trying to, you know, get the leg up on somebody, to me, you're a babyface. If you're not breaking rules,
I hate
and you're
that
not
shit.
and you're like, if I'm a heel and I'm doing the clapping type shit and pandering and like, yeah, give me your applause. That's not really heelish. That's a babyface move. Now, if I do something flashy and the people pop and I look at them and go, that wasn't for you. That wasn't for you. I'm beating this guy's ass. Shut the hell up. Or, you know, anything like that. You know, to kind of turn it back, you can be flashy. But if everything you do as a heel generates a positive reaction from the audience, you're a babyface.
See, I always felt pandering was heel tactics. When you're clapping and trying to get, because that's like pathetic, right? And a lot of old school guys say, why should I cheer for you? Earn it in the ring before I cheer for you. And you see it like, oh, I'm the baby face. Cheer for me. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, New Day rocks. Like, I don't mean anything against the New Day, but you know what I'm saying. They try to start their little chants and shit, right? And it's like, dude, that's heel tactics. Like, why is that considered baby face tactics now? To me, back in the day, the baby face was the aggressive, hyper-realistic, badass fighter because they could actually win the fight, and they would have if they didn't get cheated out of it. So to me, someone like Jon Moxley or Bryan Danielson is a traditional babyface because they can win and they should win. You cannot kick their ass. The only reason why you won is because some bullshit. Fuck that guy. As soon as Mox gets him in the ring, right? Let's do no holds barred. Now you can't use stupid ass rules. Oh, you're disqualified. Oh, I get to keep the belt, right? That was the whole point of that. The babyface was the guy who could fight, the real vicious, nasty, aggressive guy. Not this fucking happy, smiling, fucking Finn Balor, fucking, yeah, I'm gonna wave and I'm gonna wear a flag on my shirt and I'm everybody's best friend. No, dude, Finn Balor, a babyface, and back in the day would have been like, fuck your flags, fuck all that shit. I'm here to wrestle. I'm the best at it. I'm kicking everyone's ass. And that's a heel now. Again, I don't understand that.
But I think everyone could be different. You don't have to be in that cookie cutter babyface. You could be the badass babyface. Like you look at a Jon Moxley. I don't think he necessarily panders to the crowd.
But I mean, look
maybe
at
pander's not the right word.
But the thing
maybe
is,
pander's not the right word. But like, you know, when you do something cool and the crowd pops, and you know, you just kind of sit there and soak in the adulation or whatever.
No, fuck
and
that.
Again,
you should be trying to pin them because guess what? The only guys that are getting babyface reactions are heels. When Roman Reigns was a babyface, fucking nobody cared. They booed the fuck out of him.
Yep.
Now they're supposed to boo him, and he fights aggressive because he fights to win, and he tries to show off his skill. I am good. I can beat everybody. If you see me, I will beat everybody. And people watch and like, wow, he is good. He can beat everybody. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to cheer for that guy. He's good. Oh, he didn't win over shenanigans? Fuck that. That's not fair. That guy's actually good. But like, and it's all over the place, right? Nobody wanted to cheer babyface Cody. They just started booing him. That whole, oh yeah, you know, I'm not gonna I'm gonna hold back my punches for honor and I'm gonna pose. Like that's heel tactics. That's cowardly fighting. That's traditionally been the way a punk bitch fights, and nobody ever cheers for that. And it shows in the fan base, dude. The fans will tell you they didn't want to cheer for punk bitch Cody. Cody Rhodes shows up in WWE and he stops being punk bitch happy babyface Cody, and he's like, no, I'm a wrestler and I stand for wrestling, and that's a forbidden word, but I don't give a shit because I'm the best wrestler there is, right? And people are like, damn, he's got some balls and he's got the wrestling skill to back up what he's saying. Boom, that's a babyface.
I'm going to be honest. I don't see a difference between AEW and WWE Cody. I see the same thing. But like I said, every babyface and every heel is going to be different. If every heel acted like MJF, it would be all the heels would be just watered down cookie cutter bullshit. The reason MJF works is because he's different. I would probably call him more of a throwback to like maybe an older heel, but with a modern twist.
No, but the thing is, the reason
just the way he acts, because he's heel through and through. It's not he's not the type to go, my God, that match was hell, but CM Punk, you brought it.
No, but you're not using the context, dude. You got to look at the context of Cody Rhodes in AEW and Cody Rhodes in WWE. Cody Rhodes in AEW is saying, I'm the best wrestler and I'm all about wrestling, in a promotion filled with wrestlers and wrestling fans who want to watch wrestling. And they're like, no, fuck you, dude. You're not the best wrestler. Bryan Danielson's on this roster. Fuck you, dude. I'm not cheering for you. You're some whiny scumbag babyface who's pandering to the crowd, saying you're the best wrestler, and I can clearly see that Jon Moxley is also on this roster. Whereas when you transplant Cody Rhodes, same character, same act, same gimmick, put him in WWE, where wrestler is a bad word, and now Cody Rhodes can actually make a claim for being the best wrestler because he's the best wrestler surrounded by sports entertainers. And now the context, but again, he's the baby face for the people who want wrestling.
But again, you said it right there. You've got AEW, which is full of fantastic wrestlers, and you got a Cody Rhodes going, I think I'm the best wrestler in the world. And people, like you said, people going, well, no, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, whatever. But then he goes to WWE, does the same shtick. But now you're different than those guys in WWE.
Yeah, because there's no Bryan Danielson.
Because they're not doing that in WWE. They're doing that in AEW all the time, but they're not doing it in WWE. But that's why it sticks out. That's the differences. You got to be a little bit different. Everyone can't be the same type of babyface. They can't all be the same type of heel. You have to have the differences. That's why I love having the high flyers, the big guys, the fat guys, the skinny guys. You need to have the freak show with the circus. It's not just, let's see the elephants stand on their hind legs. You got to have it all. You got to have the bearded lady. You got to have the midgets, little people. You got to have all of that.
The hornswoggles.
That to me is, that's what makes wrestling great, is the differences. You got to have your Kevin Owens type people. He doesn't fit the WWE mold, but damn it, he just main evented WrestleMania with Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's working. But he's different. And that's where I think maybe my mind, like you said, our trainers kind of instilled that type of stuff into us. But at the same time, I think my mindset also was, it's very cookie cutter. This is what a baby does. This is what a heel does. When there's a whole lot of nuance to it.
See, I was the rebellious one. I was like, when they were teaching us that stuff, and I was just like, everything that they were teaching me, like, and again, God bless the guys that taught us the business.
Absolutely.
But everything that they were teaching me, I was kind of calling bullshit, because I was like, dude, like, if it's all about drawing money, like, everything you're saying is the opposite of what Hulk Hogan did. Like, Hulk Hogan did the opposite of what you're telling me, and you're saying that the results are you're going to draw money, and I'm like, wait a minute. No, Hulk Hogan did the opposite, and he made more money than any of you.
I didn't learn this right away. This was something that it took a while for me to really grasp. And it's a little bit of what you're saying, and this will be the last I mention of my time in the business on this app. Learn from everybody.
Yeah.
Not one person has every answer. I was telling my kids that were training under me, like, hey, yeah, TJ Perkins, he's training at the AWS school. Go up there. Check it out. Go to Jesse's. Check it out. Because you learn so much from different things. But yeah, man, I think that's what people need. You just can't take one person's ideals and spread it amongst them. I'll give you, I think, as trainers, give you what I think, but don't take what I said to heart. Take what piece of me, piece of them. That's what's going to make you a good wrestler, not just one person's opinion. And that's how I think of it today.
Right. Well, with that, we are out of time.
Shit.
We'll wrap it up here, but make sure you follow us. Okay, so you have a YouTube. Make sure you put that in the description, right? Your YouTube channel. People can go back and check out some of those clips. But you also have a Twitter, correct, Mr. Ryan?
Yes, it's Ryan Stone SD. If you know my real name, find me on Facebook or Instagram. Or Instagram, not Facebook. Don't go there. That's personal. But if you find me on Instagram under my real name, follow me. I post stuff about the pod on there too.
Yeah, but if you don't know his real name, he's not saying it. Either way, you also can follow.
It'll be easy to find.
You can also follow me. I have all of my links. They'll be posted in the description with my Twitter and my YouTube and my Twitch. But with that, I want to thank you for stopping by for another episode, Mr. Rhinestone.
Oh man, this was good. I enjoyed the little nostalgia. Next pod, our NXT titles, world titles.
Right.
I say no, and I want to talk about it, but that'll be for next time.
Put your initial thoughts in the comments and down below, and we'll see. We'll go over that next time. But thanks for stopping by, guys, and we hope to see you again on the next episode. Like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe.